Hello students. In this part, let us study hydrodynamics, that is the study of properties of fluid in motion. Before going to study these properties, let us know that the flow of a fluid can be categorized as a streamline flow or turbulent flow. Streamline flow is the smooth flow of a fluid with velocity smaller than certain critical velocity, whereas turbulent flow is the irregular and unsteady flow of a fluid when its velocity increases beyond critical velocity. In streamline flow, velocity of fluid at a given point is always constant, whereas in turbulent flow, the velocity of fluid at any point does not remain constant. In short, the streamline flow is an orderly flow, and the fluid flow can be visualized to be made up of number of parallel layers as shown in the diagram below. Whereas in turbulent flow, it loses its order and particles move in random directions. Moving to the next concept of critical velocity and Reynolds number. As we have seen previously, the flow of a fluid, whether streamline or turbulent, is determined on the basis of its velocity. The velocity beyond which a streamline flow becomes turbulent is called as critical velocity. The critical velocity of a fluid flowing in a tube is given by the formula Vc is equal to Rn eta upon rho d, where Rn is Reynolds number, eta is the coefficient of viscosity of the fluid, which is a property of that fluid. We'll be learning about it in details in the next slide. Rho is the density of fluid and d is the diameter of tube. If we rearrange these terms, we can write the equation for Reynolds number as Rn is equal to Vc rho d upon eta, where Rn is Reynolds number, which is a pure number, has no unit and dimensions, and it determines whether a given fluid flow will be streamline or turbulent as per the following conditions. If Rn is less than 1000, the flow of fluid is streamline. If Rn is greater than 2000, the flow of fluid is turbulent, whereas the value of Reynolds number between 1000 and 2000, the flow will become unsteady, that is, it changes from streamline to turbulent. Now, let us study about an interesting property of a fluid in motion, that is viscosity. For that, let us consider one example. Suppose we pour two different liquids, say water and glycerin, on a surface. We observe that water flows freely and quickly, whereas glycerin flows slowly and sticks to the surface. This difference is due to fluid friction, termed as viscosity. In this example, glycerin is more viscous than water. So, viscosity is the property of a fluid by virtue of which it opposes the relative motion between different layers of the fluid. Let us consider the first diagram. For a viscous fluid, different layers flow with different velocities, whereas as shown in the second diagram, for a non-viscous fluid, all the layers flow with the same velocity. To study viscosity further, let us know about the term velocity gradient. As shown in the third diagram, it is the rate of change of velocity dv with respect to distance dx measured from a stationary layer. Mathematically, velocity gradient is equal to dV by dx. Newton's law of viscosity is the very basic law which governs the fluid friction. It states that for a streamline flow, viscous force acting on any layer is directly proportional to the area of the layer and the velocity gradient. That is, F is proportional to A dV by dx. If you convert that proportionality into equality, you will need to introduce a constant of proportionality which is denoted by eta here. So F is equal to eta A dV by dx. Rearrangement of terms gives you eta equals to F upon A dV by dx, where this constant of proportionality eta is a property of that fluid and it is termed as coefficient of viscosity. So we can define coefficient of viscosity as the viscous force per unit area per unit velocity gradient for a given fluid. The SI unit of coefficient of viscosity is Newton second per meter square and its CGS unit can be written as Dyne second per centimeter square, which is given a special name as poise. You can easily find the relation between poise and SI unit of viscosity. While Newton's law of viscosity deals with opposition offered for relative motion between two fluid layers, Stokes' law deals with opposition offered for relative motion of a spherical object in a viscous medium. We can think of motion of a ball bearing in a jar filled with castor oil or motion of raindrops in atmosphere. The law states that the viscous force acting on a small sphere falling through a viscous medium is directly proportional to the radius of the sphere, its velocity through the fluid, and the coefficient of viscosity of the fluid. As shown in the figure, let us consider a spherical object which is thrown in the upward direction in a viscous medium. The motion of the object will be opposed by the viscous force, and that viscous force will be directly proportional to the coefficient of viscosity of the medium, the radius of the object, and its velocity. The constant of proportionality is found to be 6 pi, and hence the expression for viscous force becomes Fv is equal to 6 pi eta Rv. It indicates that the viscous force will be larger if the coefficient of viscosity of the medium is large, if the object is of bigger size, and it is moving with a larger velocity. Moving to the next concept of terminal velocity, let us consider a spherical object falling under gravity through a viscous medium as shown in the figure. Let the radius of the sphere be r, its mass m, and density rho. Let the density of the surrounding medium be sigma and its coefficient of viscosity be eta. The sphere will experience different forces as the viscous force Fv given by Stokes' law as Fv is equal to 6 pi eta Rv directed upwards, the buoyancy force or upthrust force Fu which is also directed upwards, and the gravitational force Fg which is equal to its weight is equal to mg. The net downward force will be given by Fg minus Fv plus Fu. Initially, the forces Fg and Fu are constant while Fv increases as the velocity of the sphere is increasing continuously. But a stage will be reached when the net force becomes zero, that is the net upward force is equal to net downward force, and hence the velocity of the sphere will become constant. In such a situation, for a spherical object, when the net force becomes zero, the downward velocity remains constant, and this constant velocity is called as terminal velocity. For terminal velocity, net force acting on the sphere is zero, means the total downward force is equal to total upward force. Let us express these forces in terms of the densities. So viscous force, which is equal to 6 pi eta Rv, buoyancy force is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube sigma into g, and the weight of the sphere is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube rho into g. The rearrangement of terms gives us the expression for terminal velocity as v is equal to 2 by 9 r square g rho minus sigma upon eta, where, as we know, rho is the density of the sphere and sigma is the density of the surrounding medium and eta is its coefficient of viscosity. Further rearrangement of terms gives us the expression for eta as 2 by 9 r square rho minus sigma g upon v.